Chapter 12, Somewhere in Atlanta. Reading through the Bible was a necessary task for Ryder to make sure he was ready for the next meeting with Sebastian. While he tried to look for the items that would make Sebastian believe he was ready to join the EOA, he was thinking about his own beliefs. What he had told Sebastian was true. He was raised Catholic, but something happened during those years after he left for basic training. He looked at God through a different lens. He saw all the death and destruction the earth brought to humans and other life throughout history and wondered how any God would just stand by and watch it happen. Then he realized that God was sending a message. Humans had turned on themselves on earth. The racism and sexism was worse than ever. Even as a child, he could see humans needed a wake-up call, a call to work together equally for a new purpose, a new mission. And that mission was space. It was seeking out new worlds and new places to start again. In that era, we would all be equal, young, old, women, men, white, and black. We would conquer the universe as humans. He could see this happening in some ways. His daughter, for example, was one of the greatest astromechanical engineers, a role that like this was unheard of centuries ago. Religious freedom also carried into the stars, and humans of all different sects worked together, side by side. Of course, there were still a few spaceships that focused on one belief or the other, but it was diverse. Generally, people in space believed in God and that the understanding that everything around them was created by a higher being, but individuals practiced their beliefs in individual ways. Ryder himself wasn't really a churchgoer anymore, but that didn't mean he wasn't spiritual. He felt like he understood exactly what God wanted from humans, and he would fight the EOA his whole life to allow humans to spread everywhere in the universe. Ryder snapped out of his daze and realized he was staring up at the crucifix again. Focus, he thought. I must prepare for my chance to escape. Chapter 13, Outside of Gemini. With the life support functioning on the Chinese ship again, Cooper and Ann didn't have to wear their helmets when they continued to work on the repairs. Cooper finished with the replacement of one of the circuit boards for the suspended animation units while Richardson called him over. Cooper floated over to see her sitting on the floor with parts floating all around her. The weightlessness in space allowed her to keep all the parts just within reach. Cooper, did you finish up that unit? Ann asked without looking up. Yes, I put in the circuit board we found in the graveyard, and I'm running a test right now to see if it will hold. Simon will tell me when it's done. What's up? Cooper asked, floating close. Well, Anne said without looking up. I'm trying to get the display working again so that they will be able to monitor their location once they reach the distances beyond the inner planets. Do you want my help? You did say you were good at fixing things that were broken. See here, she said, pointing to some wiring. It appears that this part has been fused together. Remember, we couldn't find a replacement, so we have to fix it. I tried cleaning it, but it might just be foobar. Huh? Foobar? Is that a military term? Cooper asked. Oh, sorry, she said, looking up. Maybe you haven't heard that before. It means fricked up beyond all repair. Nope, Cooper said, laughing. I haven't heard that one before. He moved in closer, and Anne handed him the part. Cooper examined it carefully, using a magnifying tool to see where the wires were connected. You know what? He said aloud, but really was talking to himself. This looks a lot like the circuitry used in the digital clock radio. A digital clock radio? Anne asked. Oh, sorry, Cooper said, looking up to her. Yes, we had them in New Denver. Well, not many of them, but they were all pretty old and were used to show time, but also to pick up the radio stations in the city. The terminals pretty much replaced the need for them, but many of the older folks wanted me to fix them so they could see the digital clocks at night. It could also pick up the one or two radio stations still in use. At one time, before we all moved underground or into space, there were hundreds of channels, and the digital clock radio could pick them all up. Said Anne. It doesn't seem too efficient, as it needed to be plugged in, right? The handhelds serve that purpose better, and you can take it with you wherever you want to go. But Anne, Cooper said, instructing, on Earth there are no handholds. Every family is issued one terminal to use, and most people share a bedroom. The first time I ever saw a handheld device was in basic. Wow, Anne said, dumbfounded and smiling a little. You're joking, right? I'm serious. You really don't believe me? No, I believe you, Anne said. I am just shocked that anyone can live like that. Cooper took a serious tone then and said, We are from two different worlds, Anne. One of the things that I hope will change in the future is better communication with Earth and space. We are all still humans, but down on Earth life is primitive. Food is rationed, and it is terrible. Your job gives you just enough credits to get your clothes washed and 3 meals a day, but there are no extras. That was why people like me, the freelancers, were so important. We found things for people that helped them to feel a little comfort. Up here, the technology is almost magical. I mean, an AI that can answer my questions like a human? That is crazy. It is almost as if the World Space Congress has given up on the people of Earth, and they are just locked in the underground units, supplying materials to people in space, but basically waiting out their eventual deaths. I didn't know any of this. From the videos I see, it looks like life there is similar to here, Anne said, trying to lighten the mood. It is okay. I feel the same way on Earth. The videos make it look so dangerous out in space. Most people would never consider leaving the planet. Yeah, I don't meet many people who actually grew up on Earth. She paused for a minute as they both thought about their worlds. Now, back to the circuit problem. What should we do about this circuit board? Anne said. Well, Cooper thought, is there like a junkyard in the motor pool where you put old parts? Or is a place that sells antiques? Actually, she paused. I have just the place, Anne said, her face lighting up. Uh-oh. Another adventure like the graveyard? Cooper asked, more excited than scared. Oh, yes, Anne said, smiling brightly. The next day, Cooper was following Anne down a maze of corridors. They went past the motor pool and the barracks, and then they took a tube that went down deep into Gemini. There were very few people here. In fact, in some of the hallways, there was no one at all. Looking at the walls, Cooper was surprised by the lack of care. Many of the wall and floor lights were out, and he could tell the area was not well maintained. They reached the end of the hallway, and Anne turned and smiled. We are here, she said mischievously. When we go in, she whispered, don't touch anything. Dawn tends to make you buy things you touch. She knocked 3 times in rapid succession, then twice slowly. The door opened and Anne beckoned Cooper to enter. He was blown away at what he saw when he entered. While the hallway outside was cramped, he entered a large room with high ceilings. There were lights everywhere, but not the traditional space station lights. They were coming from the neon signs, digital paintings that moved, and even old television screens. As Cooper's eyes moved slowly around the room, he finally stopped on a man dressed in tie-dye. He had a goofy hat on his head that looked like something a fisherman would wear, and on top was a fish and a worm that bobbled when it moved. Ah, welcome. My name is Don. The old man stood with a smile on his face that was worn and covered in white hair. Remember, if you touch it, you buy it. Cooper didn't know what to say, so he just stood there and stared. Anne leaned in close and whispered to Cooper, don't look interested in anything, or he will grab onto you and never let you go. I will distract him while you look around for a clock radio. When you find it, give me the signal by itching the side of your head with your left hand. That will be the sign to me that you found the one we need. Cooper thought, this has to be the craziest instructions I have ever been given, but I will do as she says. He nodded to Anne and moved off to look around. At that moment, Anne burst into a big smile and went over to Don. Hey, Don, how are you? Cooper could see out of the corner of his eye that Don was now distracted, so he began to explore. It was like someone took all of the freelance items he'd found in Denver, cleaned them, and put them on for sale. As he looked, he saw a whole set of perfume bottles, similar to the one he found. He saw an old-fashioned watch, cowboy boots, and a neon sign that read Elway Country. He was fascinated by so many of the items, and he felt the need to reach out and pick some items up. But he held back, remembering what Anne said. His focus then fell on another part of the room with electronics. He saw old cell phones, something that was labeled as DS-22, and a digital picture of a woman staring at him, that moved with his movements. Then he saw a small shelf with digital clocks. There were 3 of them. One of them seemed to have the lights not functioning, so the display read 177 instead of 107. He would not buy that one. He saw one that was older and had a bigger box. This should have the same circuit board as the one they needed for the ship. He reached up and scratched his head with his left hand. Anne noticed the gesture and said to Don, "Hey, Donnie, my friend over there is nostalgic for his home back on Earth. I would like to buy him a digital clock radio, but can you cut me a deal?" Don came over to where Cooper was staring at the clock. "Ah, a digital clock radio. You have chosen an excellent model." Cooper could see where Anne was going with all this, so he tried to play it down. "Don, is it? I'm not so sure. I would like this one, but 450 credits for this? I'm not so sure." Don said, "You know, this came all the way from Earth, and I had to fix it to get it running again. I couldn't possibly go less." But it appeared as Don left an opening. Anne whispered something in his ear, and he agreed. He unplugged and handed the clock radio to Cooper. He said to Cooper, "Your friend here drives a hard bargain, but we agreed. Here you go." While Cooper was examining the radio one more time, Anne paid him with her credits card. Then she quickly ushered him outside and down the hallway before they spoke again. "So," Cooper asked, "what did you pay for it?" Cooper, I only paid 200 credits, but I agreed to come back next week and watch It's a Wonderful Life with him. I knew that it was his favorite movie, and sometimes Don is just looking for someone to talk to." "Wow, great deal. You didn't have to pay for that out of your own money, did you?" "Oh, no," Anne responded. "We have a motor pool budget for just these circumstances when we need to acquire parts. Don is really not supposed to be selling gadgets like this here, but he keeps a low profile, thus the special knock. I like him, but rarely visit since I have all the modern conveniences I need in the upper decks." Cooper said, "I love it. It reminds me of this freelancing time. I wonder if freelancers sell him stuff." "There were things that were exactly like the types I found in Denver," Anne replied, smiling. "This is why I knew it would be the perfect place. So, can you fix the ship now?" "I should be able to," Cooper said, and later that day he got it working. Chapter 14. Somewhere in Atlanta. When Trevor woke this time, he saw a breakfast tray waiting for him on the table. He got up slowly and relieved himself at the toilet, then he washed his face with the soap. His injuries were starting to get better. He met with Samuels only once since the last 5 times he slept, and it was just a brief meeting. Time was moving away from him, and he still did not have enough information yet. "Maybe today will be the day," thought Ryder. He sat down at the table slowly, pretending to still be in a lot of pain, even though he was feeling much better. "I need to give the appearance of being weak," thought Ryder, "so when the time comes, I will be ready." The door opened, and in walked Sebastian. He seemed to be in good spirits as he sat down across from Ryder. He gestured to the tray. "Please, Trevor, eat. I just want to check in with you and see how your studies are going." Trevor knew that when Sebastian left the Bible, it was with the intention of indoctrinating him more to continue to work on his conversion. Trevor needed to give the appearance that he was trying to learn, or else Sebastian might not keep him around. "Well, Sebastian, thank you again for the reading material. I was thinking a lot about Psalm 8. "Ah, yes, Psalm 8. I'm assuming you were looking at verse 5, where God referred to mankind in this way. You made them a lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet, all flocks and herds, and the animals of the wild, the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, all that swim the paths of the seas." "That is the one," Trevor said between bites. "I can see how this would refer to man only living on Earth. Is that the way you interpret it?" "Major, I do believe that you are learning," Sebastian said, clapping his hands together in happiness. I am trying, that is for sure, Ryder said, lying through his teeth. Good, good. Well, you will be happy to know the plans are coming together. You see, in the past, we only made individual attacks, like when we went after Voyager, the Mars Dome, or the supply ship on the moon in Gemini. We learned from watching you stop so many of these attacks. But you are merely one man. With you out of the picture and your team as well, we can attack more places faster and with less interference. Are you willing to share more? I would like to keep learning. Trevor knew he was getting close to the information he needed. Certainly, there is nothing you can do about it now. The plans are already in motion. You see, this time we are coordinating attacks all at one moment. They will spread the military so thin they won't be able to stop us. And here's the kicker, the final solution will end space travel forever. You see, the attacks will focus on the space stations and the moon bases all in a quick moment. This will virtually cut off all the spaceships outside of the Earth's sphere of influence. Without a way to get supplies or help, spaceships will be forced to return to Earth, coming home to us, of course. My God, Ryder thought, if Sebastian succeeds at this, it will end space missions forever. Man will be trapped on Earth, where there is almost nothing left. But then a terrible thought hit Ryder. Sebastian, you know my grandson is on Gemini, Trevor said, giving away information, but hoping it would play to his sympathies and maybe provide more information about the attack time. Yes, Trevor, I know. Please don't worry about that. My grandson is headed there as well. He is part of the plan and will give Cooper a chance to join him, or he will be killed with all the other humans on the space station. Trevor couldn't control his anger any longer. He lost his daughter to this organization, and he wasn't going to lose his only grandson as well. That is my grandson you're talking about. What the hell? Why the hell would he join you? I am sorry, Trevor. It is part of the final solution. Join or be swept away. And please calm down, or I will be forced to have the guards put you under again. Trevor tried to control himself, but it was almost impossible. Cooper was out there, and there was no way to stop what was about to happen. His escape needed to happen soon. Control, Trevor thought. I have to control my feelings until I can escape. He took a deep breath and tried again. I apologize again, Sebastian. I am trying to wrap my mind around all of this. Can I ask, how can you possibly pull this off? It would require you to have soldiers and ships all over space. That is the crazy thing, Trevor. There are many organizations that are willing to join us. For example, the Blackbeards. They think, of course, that we will give them Gemini when they attack. But in actuality, they are merely pawns in this mission. Once they have succeeded in taking down the defenses for Gemini, our men will take them out and then destroy Gemini. You see, we have soldiers throughout your military ready to switch sides when they are given the word. My grandson, John Samuels, will be part of the rebellion on Gemini. But, Sebastian, the pirates are a pirate group. They will turn on you without a second thought. You can't possibly trust them, Trevor said, hoping to put some holes in Sebastian's plan and give him second thoughts. I have met directly with the Commodore, who understands what is at stake here and truly believes that Gemini will be given to them upon completion. I am not worried. So when is all this taking place, if you don't mind me asking? Trevor said, hoping by some crazy twist of fate that Sebastian would tell him. Pausing, Sebastian replied, Well, leaning in close, I shouldn't tell you, but the start date is on May 7th. What is so special about that date? Trevor said, thinking back through important dates, but not remembering this one. Oh, Trevor, you don't know? It is significant because it's National Day of Prayer. This made Trevor stop and think for a moment. While this date was not significant in early years in world history, it became highly significant after the riots and humans moved underground. Because most of the religions were forced to join each other in common places, their leaders came together to work on world unity. The National Day of Prayer was celebrated all over the universe, and for 2 minutes, everything stops, while everyone bows their heads and prays for all people who were lost in wars, famine, natural disasters, and while continuing to explore the universe. Even the World Congress stops, and everyone, including the security, bows their heads. It would be an excellent moment to make an attack happen, as no one would be prepared. Is your son planning on taking over the World Congress on that date as well? Trevor said, venturing a guess. Trevor, my old friend, it is almost as if you are reading my mind. I am so happy you will soon be on my team. Why, yes, during the 2 minutes of bowing, we have a sniper who will assassinate the chairman of the World Congress. We will ensure that the sniper is not connected to my son in any way, and he will be forced to assume power. Once my son is in power, he can cut funds to all space exploration, including the precious Mayflower project. Then we can focus all our energies on bringing humans back home to Earth. There was a knock on the door, and a guard leaned in and nodded to Sebastian. Now, I am sorry to cut our time short, but I must go make some more plans. Sebastian, thank you for spending so much time with me. I am wondering if you could come back later in the evening and pray with me. I would like to pray for our grandsons to keep them safe in what is coming. Trevor said this, knowing full well that Sebastian couldn't possibly turn down the opportunity to pray with him. But the question was, would Sebastian actually believe Ryder wanted to pray? Ryder's gamble paid off when Sebastian nodded and said, Yes, I would like that. Now I must go. He waved as he left, grinning from ear to ear. He truly believes he can convert me, thought Ryder. Well, the hard truth is coming tonight when I make my escape. Chapter 15, Gemini. Cooper was called down to meet with the First Sergeant Bolts in his office. It was late, and Cooper was feeling tired, but he was interested in finally sitting with Bolts and hearing more about him and his past. When he entered the room, he expected to see Bolts sitting at his desk, but instead he was over at a small table near the windows, looking out over the repair facility. Bolts called out to him, Richardson, join me here. Cooper walked over to the table and took a seat across from Bolts. Richardson, I want to thank you again for the Lunar City Bakery cookies from the moon. I am sure that Ryder was the one who told you about my love for those cookies, and I appreciate him doing that. Now that you've been here for a few weeks, I thought it would be best if we met and I checked in on your progress. Bolts opened a box on the table and pulled out a few slices of pizza. He pushed the box over to Cooper and offered him some. Thank you, Sergeant. I am starving. Cooper grabbed a few slices and put them on a plate and started eating. Between bites, Bolts said, So, how is your training going with my granddaughter? Cooper finished his bite and replied, It is going great. I am learning so much and enjoying all the adventures out in the spaceships. It is amazing to me how many different designs of ships there are. Bolts took a sip of his coffee and said, Yes, yes. With so many countries involved in space now, each country has designed its own unique styles for ships. But as you probably realized, they all use the same basic propulsion and life support systems. That is true. I think what impresses me the most is the spacesuit. My AI can anticipate my needs. Simon is incredibly helpful in my training as well. Nodding, Bolt said, Yeah, the AI improved so much since my days out here. Back then, you had nothing but mission control to tell you what to do, and the suits were so bulky you couldn't see or do anything easily. So true. I saw the older suit designs when my grandfather took me to the Moon Base Museum. Ah, yes, Ryder. How is he doing? How is the mission going? Cooper frowned a little. Well, the thing is, I'm a little worried about him. How so? Bolt said, grabbing another slice of pizza. Well, I got a message from him the first day I was here. I knew that he was going on a secret mission. Bolts interrupted. Do you mean the one to New Atlanta to take on the EOA? Cooper was taken aback when Bolts said this, but then he remembered Ryder saying that only a few people knew about the mission. Bolts must be one of these people. Yeah, that one. Anyway, I haven't heard back from him since. I was sort of hoping now that we were family, I would hear from him more frequently. Bolts frowned. This is one of the reasons I wanted to meet with you now. I wanted to see if you had heard from him. You see, I haven't heard from him either. We are pretty close, and we usually talk regularly. But I do know that when he is deep in a mission, it is almost impossible for him to keep in contact. It just seems strange, said Cooper. I know this mission was going to be a difficult one, but I didn't think it would take this long. It has been more than 3 weeks now. I haven't seen anything on the news. Do you have any other way to contact him? Bolt stopped eating for a minute and thought about the question. Then he replied, I can try and make some covert inquiries. The problem is that it's tough to know who to trust anymore. Cooper looked up from his empty plate and said, It is interesting you say that. Grandfather said the same thing to me. He was worried about sharing more information about the attack at Armstrong and New Atlanta for fear that it would get back to the EOA. He felt that there were people in the World Space Congress supporting that terrorist organization. Cooper, you are astute for your young age, and that is exactly right. Ryder isn't the only one who feels that way. Bolts leaned in close. I know that there are even EOA supporters here on this space station. Cooper looked back in surprise. But why would they live here and not on Earth? The EOA needs spies everywhere so they can know what we are doing and planning for the future. A few months ago, I found out one of my mechanics was an EOA spy. He seemed fine at first, but it was comments under his breath about how we were breaking God's rules and things that led me to investigate more. It turns out he was organizing gatherings to attempt a takeover of the space station. Well, luckily, I caught on before he recruited too many to his cause. Now he's serving some time in the prison on the moon. Cooper looked at Bolts in awe. It was as if he was just like Ryder, always saving the day. Oh, don't look at me like that, Richardson. It wasn't anything that amazing. I am just doing my job, but for some reason the stories about me have grown in this place. I am sure that I am on the EOA's most wanted list, but your grandfather is at the top. The time is coming when the EOA will plan a big attack back here on Gemini. Hopefully, Ryder will be here to stop it, just like he always does. Is there anything I can do to help? Inquired Cooper. Well, Richardson, the main thing you can do is keep your eyes out for anything unusual. If you hear soldiers talking in corners about Earth, check it out and report back to me. By the way, have you seen anything strange since you've been here? Bolts asked, looking down at what was left of the pizza, then deciding he could handle one more. He grabbed a small one. Not really, but well, I don't know if it matters, Cooper said, contemplating his encounter with the sales guy on the spaceflight over. Bolts put the slice down, looked at Cooper, and ordered, Tell me, it might be significant. I did meet this pretty aggressive salesman on the spaceflight over. That is interesting. Most of the sales people contact me via the terminal. Tell me more, Bolts ordered again. His name was Rick, and I don't remember his last name. Anyway, he was on the spaceflight from the moon. He came over and sat next to me and was a little too friendly with me. He knew who I was, and he also knew where I was going for training. He claimed to be a salesman and wanted to get a meeting with you so he could sell you repair parts. The thing that bothered me was the way he pushed. He was talking about making it worth my trouble, as if I could be bribed to get in touch with you. Bolt stopped for a minute. It could be nothing, just another salesman, but the timing was interesting considering he was on the ship and knew who Cooper's was. That flight was a special one as well, since it happened right after the attack, and not many people were allowed on it, Bolts thought. Thank you for sharing this information with me, Bolt said. Yes, that is an unusual situation because your flight wasn't supposed to go out right after the terrorist attack. I understood it. As I understood it, there were only a few people on it, correct? Yes, that's true. I believe there were 5 people, including me. I was surprised at how few people there were, but I just assumed it was not a popular flight, Cooper said. Actually, that flight only happens once every other day, and it's usually full. A lot of soldiers take their leave time on the moon, since there is so much more to do there than here on Gemini. I need to investigate this Rick some more to see who he is. Did he, by chance, give you a digital card or any other information? Bolts asked. Yes, he did give me a digital card. I believe I still have it. Cooper said, digging into his pocket. Here it is. He handed the card to Bolts, who looked at it intensely. Well, I haven't heard of this company, but that doesn't mean much. Companies are popping up all the time on the moon to try and sell equipment to me. They always say they can get me a better deal or a faster shipment. It's all a bunch of BS because there are really only a few ways to get parts. It is why we have to use the graveyard so much. Well, Rick Goodman, I will look into this. Can I keep this card? Bolt said. Of course, Sergeant. In fact, Rick would be very happy because this is what he wanted for you to have is his card, Cooper said, smiling a little. Salesman, Bolt said, clearly annoyed by the mention of the profession. Now, to some military business, changing the subject. They cleared away the table and Bolts brought out some training materials on the terminal in front of him. As part of Cooper's training, he would have to review manuals online and pass tests. His training consisted of two parts. One was the hands-on training in the field he was doing with Johnson, and the other was the online testing. As Cooper started looking through the materials, he wasn't too worried. In school back on Earth, he excelled at the testing, graduating early from his courses with high marks. However, this was the tedious part of the training, so he thought it best to get to work right away. Bolts told him he could stay as long as he wanted and showed him how to lock up. After Bolts left, Cooper stopped working for a minute and looked out over the motor pool. Looking at the spaceships made him think of his grandfather again. He was worried about Ryder. He also thought about Basic. He made so many wonderful friends back there. He hadn't talked to Alwine and Childs in a while, so he needed to send them a message soon. It was weird, too, sitting there. Cooper started thinking about Samuels as well. They weren't friends as such, but when they shook hands after the final training mission, he felt a little bit of bond between them. He heard that Samuels was somewhere orbiting Earth in one of the space stations. I wonder what his advanced training is like, thought Cooper. Probably lots of weapons training, much different than what I'm doing. Chapter 16, USS Samuels Space Station. Private First Class John Samuels was in his element here in space. His stocky build and strength allowed him to move easily through zero gravity and on any mission. He was on this space station for an advanced security training. He quickly became the leader of his squad and then leader of his platoon. The other soldiers were forced to look up to him, not only because of his abilities as a soldier, but because the space station was named after his late grandfather. Some of them, he knew, looked at him with jealousy and also with hatred. Samuels was a leader, but he was not well liked and felt alone most of the time. At this moment, though, he was standing in formation getting ready to receive his promotion to corporal. It was a little unorthodox for a soldier who had been in training for only a few weeks to get a promotion like this, but that is the way things go when your father is the vice chairman of the World Space Congress. Private First Class Samuels, please come forward. The whole platoon was in the curved meeting room. It was one of the few places on the space station where there was some gravity. He walked slowly up past his other soldiers, performing precision turns even in the low gravity to reach the front where the first sergeant and captain were waiting for him. He stopped in front of them, saluted, and then stayed at attention. The captain read, "By order of the United Government Military Space Commission, Private First Class John Samuels has performed exceptional work in his advanced security training. He is hereby awarded the rank of E4 Corporal and will graduate from training as of today." As the first sergeant pinned the new rank on Samuels, the rest of the platoon clapped in unison, as was required by protocol. Samuel still couldn't believe this was happening. The training was supposed to go another 5 weeks at least. It was confusing, but he figured his dad must really want him to finish. His grandfather, who was actually still alive, talked to him about a time that would be coming soon when he would be part of something spectacular, and he would be rewarded handsomely for his part. Samuels wondered if this was a part of the plan. The pinning ceremony was done, and Samuels was shaking hands with everyone around him. While the rest of his platoon went back to training, he was told to go to the captain's office to receive his next orders. Taking a moment to look out the windows at Earth below, he proceeded to the hallway that led him to Captain Doone's office. His grandfather told him that Doone was one of them. When he arrived at the door, it opened for him, and he entered quickly. "Take a seat, Samuels," Doone said, gesturing to the side chair in the room. Samuel sat down and used the strap to keep himself in place, as this room was in freefall, like most areas on the space station. "Samuels, congratulations on the promotion. I called you here to discuss something of the utmost importance. This will be your next mission." Samuels looked at his handheld and the orders appeared. He clicked to view the details. The orders indicated that he would be assigned to the counterterrorism assault team designation, Serpents. After letting Samuels digest this information for a moment, Captain Doon said, "Samuels, I believe you know why you have been promoted and what your mission will be. The plan is to leave here in a few days, headed to Gemini, where you will be part of a group to protect against an incoming terrorist attack. But you and I both know that it is more than that. You will be one of the weapons specialists for this mission. Stay close to me through this, as I promised your father I would keep you safe." Samuels only understood part of what was happening. He knew, even from a young age, that he was being trained for a special mission, one that would have a significant religious impact. The mission must be imminent. Doon leaned in close and whispered, "Remember, Samuels, discuss this with no one. There are only 4 of us in the know, and when the time comes, we will eliminate the rest of the team and focus our energies on the station." "Yes, sir," Samuel said with the required enthusiasm. "You are dismissed, Corporal," Doon said, returning to his work. Samuels got up and headed to the door. With the new promotion, he would be moving to his own room. He knew he wouldn't be missed in the barracks, but it would be lonely, with only his thoughts to occupy him. As he walked down the corridor to his new room, he remembered what his grandfather told him recently. His dad told him they had one more stop before heading to basic. The family pilot landed the shuttle in a small field somewhere in the state of Georgia. That was all they told him. When they landed, his father told Samuels to walk into the woods, and he pointed off to the north. Samuels started walking through lots of trees and brush. He wondered how far he would have to walk when he saw a small cabin ahead, completely covered and surrounded by trees. It was very dark, as the sun couldn't penetrate the thick foliage. There was clearly a figure standing next to the cabin, beckoning him to come closer. He walked forward and realized it was his grandfather. This shocked him because Samuels thought he died years ago in a space station accident. He ran to him and they hugged. "Grandfather, I can't believe it's you." Sebastian Samuels hugged him back and then directed him inside. "John," Sebastian started, taking a seat and gesturing for Samuels to take the other one. "It is so good to see you. And yes, as you can see, I am not dead. It was necessary many years ago to disappear from the general public in order to ensure my work could continue. I want to welcome you to one of the family's cabins. You see, my grandfather used to bring me out here to hunt quail and deer. We would spend time living off the land and thanking God for all that he gave us on this earth." "Amen," John said, anticipating the need to respond in this way. "John, I am happy to see you have grown strong over the years. You see, the time is coming soon, the time when we will bring everyone home to Earth, mankind's only home. I hear that you are leaving soon for basic training." "Yes, grandfather, I am off to the moon in just a few days." Yes, I believe your father has prepared you for this. You must win everything in training. You must receive the leadership award so that you can pick your advanced training assignment," Sebastian ordered, while looking directly into John's eyes. "Yes, father told me how important it is for me to succeed. I will try my best." "Try your best?" Sebastian looked at him with a stern gaze, and from somewhere under his robe came a cane, and with lightning speed he was striking John on the arms and back. "Try your best, you say? That is not good enough. Hasn't your father trained you to be the best? Do I need to bring him in here to strike you as well?" John fell to the floor, writhing from the beating. He looked into the small fireplace that was emanating light but no heat, and he remembered. He remembered the beatings that he endured from his own father so many times. He knew there were only one way to stop the beating. "No, please, grandfather, I will succeed. Father has trained me. I am ready." John said this as he felt the blood subside. "I will succeed. I will win the trophy and the leadership award. I promise," John yelled with conviction. The blows stopped and the cane disappeared back into Sebastian's robe. He reached out a hand and helped John back into his seat. "John, your name was chosen for many generations ago. You will prepare the world for a new coming, a time when the earth will be restored by mankind and we will once again live upon it instead of underneath it and out in space. You must succeed. Never say the word try again." "Yes, grandfather." John felt more confident now, and he wiped the tears away from his eyes. "Good. Now I can tell you much about your assignment you will embark on. But Know that there will come a time when you'll be asked to join a mission to fight counterterrorism. This will just be the story that we will be told to you by the people above, but in the end you will turn on the other soldiers and complete your mission. Now, I know you must have a fear of shooting another human, but know that this is God's will. It is His desire that we return to the earth. You must focus on the mission, not the killing. Think ahead to the mission's success. You will play a huge part in it, and I am so proud to call you my grandson. Sebastian finished, still looking directly into John's eyes. Of course, grandfather, I will do as you say. John was scared of his grandfather, just like he was of his father. I will say anything to avoid another beating, John thought. Now we must pray for success, Sebastian Samuel said as he guided his grandson John to a tarp that was laid out in the small room. They both knelt and faced a crucifix and the EOA motto that was hanging on the wall of the cabin. Then they prayed together. Specialist John Samuels never saw his grandfather after that. Even though he failed at getting the leadership award, it appeared that his father, Paul Samuels, found a way to get him on the space station and into the counterterrorism unit anyway. John still didn't know exactly what his mission would be or who he would have to kill. He was surprised to hear they were going to Gemini. This is where Cooper is stationed, Samuels thought. He hated Cooper from the minute he met him, but Cooper pushed him so hard during training. In fact, like Cooper said to him at the end, they made each other better soldiers because of the competition. However, it was witnessing Cooper's leadership and compassion for another soldier that momentarily changed Samuel's way of thinking. Instead of pushing forward to victory, he stayed in the crater and helped Cooper with the unconscious soldier Chi. That move went against everything Samuels was trained to do by his father. He was filled with mixed emotions, and he still thought about Cooper from time to time. If things had been different, they might have become friends. Samuels reached his new room and noticed all his bags lying on the bed. Someone must have been ordered to pack his stuff and deliver it to his new room. He sat down at the desk and opened his device. A new message was waiting for him. It was from his father. Samuels clicked on it, and his father's face appeared. John, I know that you won't let me down. You will succeed in your mission, and we will soon be reunited on Earth. The image faded to black. Samuels clicked on the delete button and threw the device against the wall. With no gravity, it hit the wall, bounced off, and just floated slowly back to him. He didn't even say he was proud of me or that he loved me, thought Samuels. His only concern is that I don't let him down.